Well, good afternoon, everyone. This is a really, I'll say this before we get started. We had some background conversation with our guest today, and it kind of got me extra excited, but I will allow her to share that information as we move along in our conversation. I am your host, LaShaune Stitt with Educate the World. This is our second Parent Posse Chat. I'm very excited about this series. It's something new that I decided to start not only for homeschool parents, parents with little children, parents with older children. It was for parents, caregivers, aunties, grandmas, everyone who is responsible for loving and caring and educating our young people. But it's also a place of support and encouragement. And that was the impetus behind it. And so I'm excited to have this second conversation with an extremely intellectual, beautiful spirit. Just from our conversation, I'm picking up on the spirit and very intentional person. And I will allow her to, give you her background. I am really tuning in today from Pikesville, Maryland. We're on the native land of the Susquehanna natives who were here, and that's the territory that I'm coming from. I'm starting to, get more into acknowledging the land that I'm on and having that become something that I practice, just because of the work that we do and recognizing Black, Indigenous people of color, as well as recognizing the diversity that is who we are as citizens, not only of the United States, or hopefully one day we'll get to be global, as Educate the World. So that's my dream. But today we have Dr. Juli Shamas, and she is not only a homeschool mom, entrepreneur, but she is also a medical doctor, which is like, how do you do that? I'm always amazed. I met her through Facebook, and she will talk a little bit about her organization and how it evolved. But I just thought that she was a wonderful source of information. She has so much to share, and is definitely a knowledgeable person when it comes to the elements of education. I'll say that. And so I guess I'll say her organization, Anything Academics, is a quote unquote one-stop shop for all things academic, all resources for everyone, not just parents, teachers, everybody. But I'll allow Dr. Juli Shamas to give us more insight on her organization, Anything Academics. Thank you so much, Julie. I appreciate you joining me today.
Well, that was, as I lose my voice, that was a lovely introduction. Thank you so much for having me here on the show today. It's really sweet of you to get us involved this way. And what you're doing is just amazing. So we love the outreach. We love empowering parents and teachers and students. That's sort of what we do. And so to see you doing that and reflecting it, that's amazing. So keep up the hard work.
Thank you.
I always say, if we can change education for one family, one child, then it was worth it. So it is simply amazing. But okay, so what we are and what I've done is we have built a new business called Anything Academic, and it's anythingacademic.com. And how we sort of got here is, it's hard to tell you what we are without telling you the journey. So the journey is this. I'm a parent, I'm a mom. Like you said, I'm a homeschool mom. I have two beautiful girls who are 10 and 12, and they are amazing entities to be around. That what they've accomplished in the last 2 years has blown me away. I am also an emergency physician, so I work in the emergency room full time, keeping myself busy there. And my husband is a database programmer. And so together with our partner, who is again, sort of an entrepreneur with us, she has two little ones as well. We decided that we would start looking at education. And how did we get here? So lots of things have happened in the last 2 years. A lot of things have happened in 2 years.
Right.
We come from more of a private school background. We did that traditionally for a long time. And fate being what it was, and because God has a sense of humor, we had struggled with what we were going to do for education with our family. And all through the fall of 2019, we debated for various reasons whether or not we were going to embark on a new path for education for our own family. And for us, that was going to be homeschool. And boy, what a doozy that was. We spent a lot of time debating, was this right? Were we going to ruin our children? Was the world going to end? I mean, like, obviously this was a big deal to us. And so we pulled them out end of December of 2019. And oh yes, just wait, it gets better. So we pulled them out. And then for the next 2.5, 3 months, we started to sort of get it together. Now, this is not a smooth transition. Anyone who tells you it's a smooth transition is sugarcoating. And that's not to say it's not wonderful, but
Right.
like, any transition has its bumps and learning curves. But thankfully, after about 2.5 months, 3 at the most, we'd sort of gotten our groove on. Like, we thought maybe we had figured out what we were to do with our own children. And if you kept track, that means that by about March of 2020, we had it going, we had it together. But we still had all this angst about, have we made the right decision? What if no one approves? All these things that we could go into. That's a long story. And then God laughed very, very hard. And it was the end of March 2020, and the entire world went to homeschool or shut down completely. So things changed. Now, we ended up where we are. As you can imagine, as a physician, I'm a little attentive to detail. I do my research. I want to know everything about everything. And I had spent almost a year just digging and digging and digging, learning everything I could about not just homeschool, because that was the end of our journey. The beginning of our journey was, what schools should we put our children in? Are there alternative schools? Do we go public? Do we go private? Is it magnet? What the heck is an online school? Like, all these questions. So we had sort of been through this journey. So the world ends, we're carrying on. And by about May, folks are pretty panicked. We can all look back at that time now. Teachers and parents alike are worried about the coming year. There are people who didn't want to go back to school. There were people who did want to go back to school. There were teachers that didn't want to go back to school. All sorts of things were happening. It seems like that was a decade ago, and I know it was like a year ago, but still. So we decided, a teacher friend and I, that we would put together a little group on Facebook, and maybe some of her teacher friends and some of my mom friends would get together and sort of hook up and help each other out, maybe kind of get through this transition. Maybe 5 or 10 of them it would work. And a month later, there were 4,500 people. And 3 months later, there were about 10,000. So we obviously had found something that people needed. And along that way and along that journey, I talked to all of them. I listened to every person's story, whether they were a teacher, parent, grandparent, sometimes they were dads. I mean, some of these stories were heartbreaking. I mean, dads who had lost their wives to COVID. There were, grandparents who had kind of come out of retirement to take care of the kids while we know these stories. I won't go into them, but whatever it was, the stories were there. Teachers who didn't know how to embrace this change, teachers that did and didn't know what to do. There were lots of stories. I talked to people all over the world. I found out about educational systems and the struggles, not just in the United States, but all over the world. And it was very, very interesting to kind of see that journey. And the thing that we found most frustrating in our own home and then amongst our friends was the story we heard all the time was, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to find resources. I don't even know what questions to ask to start looking. And it's all well and good to say, oh, well, just go do a Google search. Well, okay, but like, I don't know anything about plumbing or electronics or electrical work. And if I had to Google how to do that, I wouldn't even know where to start, right? Like, this is not my cup of tea. So, somebody will come into my house to fix something and they're talking a whole different language to me. I wouldn't even know how to interpret it. And sometimes you just want someone to sort of take you by that hand. And so I found myself in those early months. I mean, I must have had thousands of conversations with my own friends online, basically just saying, okay, tell me who your kids are. Let's talk about your needs. Did you know you could do XYZ? Did you know these things were possible? Did you did you? And the answer almost always, whether they were a teacher or a parent, was, no, I didn't know that. And what became very clear as we watched teachers trying to teach on whiteboards in little Zoom classes, right? And first of all, let me preface this with, I have the utmost respect for the teachers who have survived the last 2 years. They stepped up. I know that being a frontline person, I'm exhausted. I can only imagine how they feel. But they stepped up, they adjusted, they did what they could to get through these 2 years. But we all know that it was a rough pathway for everybody. My big frustration watching that, and then also knowing what we did, was I saw teachers and schools and parents trying to sort of reinvent things, trying to build things from scratch. A science teacher trying to use a whiteboard and scratching in the background on the whiteboard. And I'm sitting there thinking, do you not know about all of these great programs, highly affordable? They work with school systems, they work with parents directly, that can provide everything you want, but on a level, the equivalent of watching an HBO movie, right? It is that level of documentary, it's that level of film. Even if you go simpler than that, YouTube has all these channels that teach different subjects now, all these sorts of things. The world has changed technology-wise in the last 20 years, and yet how we access that technology, how we use it in the classroom, out of the classroom, in the home, hasn't really caught up. Now, boy, are we catching up fast. I mean, necessity being the mother of invention, right? So people are starting to realize that they just need to adapt. And I don't think we will ever go back to where we were 2 years ago in education, in both good and bad ways. We will definitely not be back where we are. And with that comes the ability to do more, right? It also comes with the fact that kids are behind after 2 years. And that's worldwide. That's nobody's fault, right? That's worldwide. And so, okay, so what do we do? Well, as part of this journey, we realized this is just dumb. Let's just be honest. This is just dumb. Nobody knows where anything is. Nobody in the school system or the home system or wherever, nobody knows where all the stuff is. It's like one big disorganized house and nobody knows what's in somebody else's room. And so we decided we were going to change that. And so that is essentially what we've done. We have built a single home where you can find every option. We aren't representing one company's worth of material. That's not what we do. As a parent, I wanted to be able to quickly go online and say, how can I teach my kid math? Or how can I get them extra science help? Or how can we talk about dinosaurs? Like, what can I do? What is out there? Somebody please tell me quickly, because I don't have time, right? Like the kids are yelling, I got to go. Somebody tell me what I can do quickly. And it didn't exist. I mean, I looked and I looked and I looked and it wasn't there. So we did it. We've built a new home for everything educational, anything academic, right? And along with that comes the notion that, and this is, I think, where the homeschool market started first, but it's expanding outwards from there, is the concept that school, that learning, that education happens between 8 and 3 every day, or whatever your school hours are, right? Well, what about the rest of it? Why does learning have to happen in a given box? And I use this example, right? My daughter loved Minecraft. I know this is like what everyone did. And so she watched, I can't imagine how many YouTube videos and people on Twitter, like things I know nothing about, to determine how to build extraordinarily complex systems in this game. I mean, they're essentially physical engineering constructions, right? And she taught herself. Okay, well, if she can do that, why can't children lead their own education with direction, right? This is important, but kids are already learning this way. Now, it may not be the things that you want them to learn, like Minecraft, right? But it can be anything. And this is where the homeschool market, again, kind of has shined, that we gave the kids the ability to go find and direct their education in a lot of ways. All right, so what did we do? We have spent the last year, more or less, building a home, a single site that is an instant search engine with more than 30,000 listings of academic things, companies, camps, resources, YouTube channels, educational news sites, monthly subscription boxes that teach everything from history to backpacking. I mean, whatever you do. And one of the neat things that happened along, and every online school in the nation, and so much more. And I'll walk you through some of it here as I get a look at it. But what happened along the way is we decided that education and academia didn't stop during the school year as we came into the summer. So we have over 10,000 camps in the system, summer camps. And academics isn't just learning reading, writing, and arithmetic. Academics is social skills. Academics is learning speech. Academics may be climbing a mountain. Academics means to learn, right? This is what we're doing. And so learning doesn't have to be just inside this classroom. As adults, right, when we go to learn, do you go find a textbook to learn what you need to do? Of course not. Nobody does that, right? What do? You need to know how to do something. You go watch the YouTube channel, right? You find a website that explains what you're doing. Wouldn't it be great to have like a way to test yourself and see what you're going on? These things exist out there for children. And so we have put it all together. What we do is when you sign up for the site, you instantly can see everything, right? You have two options. One, you can jump right in and start digging, right? But the other thing we realized, and the most important thing we realized was, as parents, and this comes from many, many couch conversations with my best friend, best friends, I should say. Parents come to us and are like, I don't know what to do. And you're like, okay, here's a cookie. Here's your glass of wine. Sit down. It's okay. So I like to think that our site is the equivalent of the cookie and sitting on my sofa. And so what we have done is created a series of questions. You can answer as many or as few as you want. But the more you answer about your child and your needs and your home and what you need, the more tailored your responses will be. And it's instant. Okay. I don't know about you, but by the time the kids are down and quiet, it's 2 a.m. and it's just me. And I don't want to wait for someone to get back to me in 3 or 4 days or a week with I need to know right now. We came at this from the point of view of parents. We wanted the tool that we needed. And so we built it that way. So that is exactly what we've done. And I can show you when we get to that point. I'll give you a drive-through. In addition to the site itself, which lists all these different things that you can find, we've also begun and have built a huge mass of information education, so that if you've decided to go down the homeschool path or an online school path, or you want to talk about a magnet school, like all the stuff that you need to know, we have information for you. And we will walk you through learning about what you need to learn, because for a lot of people, this is sort of a foreign language. It's really easy to wake up in the morning, drop your child off at school, go about your day and pick them up in the afternoon and you're done, right? Like something's happened. But I think in somewhere in there, your kids are learning, like that's what's supposed to happen, right?
Right.
Well, then all of a sudden, those kids were at home and the learning was happening in front of the parent who was also home, right? And the teacher who's trying to teach in front of the parent also has her kids in the next room doing the same thing. Mm-hmm. So all of a sudden there was a level of transparency, I think, that nobody had seen before. Like this just, we pulled the curtain aside as to what was going on. And I think for a lot of parents, they realized that the education that the children were getting perhaps wasn't quite what they thought it was. Okay. Good, bad, and ugly, right? It just wasn't what they thought it was. And there may have been great things, and there may have been not so great things. And I don't mean just in terms of grades or what was being taught or not being taught. I think there were parents along the way that realized that their kids desperately needed social interaction. Like we know there was a component of social learners that needed to be in school, right? Like we've learned that about our kids. There were a group of parents who had kids in traditional schools who said, my kid's doing so much better by himself without classroom distractions. There were parents who realized their children who had been struggling with reading, when they had a little time to focus on it, maybe there was some dyslexia and maybe this was the time to get some help. I just think that we opened our eyes to see, as parents and teachers, what we really needed. And so we have that. Like, that's one of the things we do. If you need stuff for gifted students, if you have a child who's dyslexic and you just don't know what to start with, we have all that information on there. There's also, information on if you need to remediate a little bit this year, because I think the statistics, and you probably know, the statistics are something like 30 to 40% of the nation's school children. We're not going to talk about the rest of the world because that's a whole nother conversation. But just our nation's school children are significantly behind. It's not their fault. It's not our fault. No matter how good of a teacher you were and how good of a student you were in the last year, it just didn't adapt fast enough to be there. And that doesn't mean you can't learn online. We should clarify that remote school is not online school. Let me say that one more time for
the people in the back, right?
So remote school, what I call emergency pandemic schooling, right? And kudos to trying really, really hard, okay? Is not the same thing as an online school. Now, we cover all sorts of schooling. Online schools, and I think that when we were kids, this was probably the evolution of what a correspondence course was when I was a little girl, right? But that's like saying that a Tesla is the same thing as Henry Ford's first car. Okay, like they are not the same things at all, right? Online schools, which have been now around for a couple decades, were full schools that did all their teaching all the time and had all of the pieces put together to do amazing stuff. They had the infrastructure, they taught differently. It wasn't a teacher with a whiteboard, right? These were people using every tool at their disposal that were experts. They had,
they were innovative.
They were not just innovative, but they'd had 20 years to get it right? If you have to write a textbook tomorrow, it's not going to be as good as the textbook that's been written for 3 decades, right? And that's what happened. And unfortunately, I think a lot of parents and teachers both look at what happened and say, oh my gosh, remote schooling, we'll never do that again, and think that that's online learning, and don't understand the difference between that and hybrid learning and other things. And so again, we are here to educate parents that you can have your child in school. They're back in school. That's fantastic. You want to do some catch up. Do you need a tutor? Okay, well, we'll help you find that. Do you need, maybe your son needs help with science. Okay, well, let's go find the tools that may even be free that are online video games that teach science. I mean, my favorite one is my daughter, going back a little bit, loves a program called Legends of Learning. And this is this amazing video game based system. It's on our site. You can look it up. Certainly put it in the links for anyone that's watching it. They play things by video games. And so my then 7-year-old daughter, right? So just to give you an idea how we change our thinking about education. This video game is on the level, at least, of Minecraft or Fortnite in terms of graphics. It's amazing. And so she's in there and there's this mad scientist looking guy running across the screen. And I'm looking at what she's doing on the screen, and it's complicated chemistry formulas, CO2 plus XYZ, these very complicated things. And she's 7, and I'm looking at her going, what are you doing? She's like, we're saving the world. What do you mean you're saving the world? Well, see, this guy wants everybody to go bald. And if we can't figure out which one of these creates carbon dioxide, everybody in the world is going to go bald. And so she was solving chemical equations, not because she enjoyed the chemistry, which she did, but because she was 7 and nobody should go bald. And this is how they teach, right? So those programs are not expensive. And in many cases, they're free or they're a few dollars a month, but you have to know about them. You have to be able to find them to make it work.
Let's ask you about that later.
No, I'm sorry.
No, I wanted to add, well, first of all, I'm so sorry for interrupting your flow. You were going, but there were so many thoughts that ran through my head while you were speaking and sharing. First, I mean, the pandemic or the crisis, or some may say the cleansing or the revolution, that transpired during that time. It had to happen for a reason. And I say that because number one, you nailed it. The system, the educational system is so antiquated, and we're out of touch when it comes to reaching our students, our children, reaching them in the manner in which they need to be reached, because everybody, every circle does not fit into a square hole, or however you say it, but it's not a cookie cutter thing.
Right.
The other thing was, there was a scholar that I studied years ago, and I just thought where he's, his framework and his concept of education was just, it touched me because, Sir Ken Robinson, I don't know if you ever heard of him, but he was amazing as far as the way that he said, the way that we break children down by tearing away at their level of creativity, their level of imagination, their desire, their curiosity. It starts in kindergarten. And when they're like, yes, we want to learn everything. And then they get through this system, and eventually with the assessments and the over assessing and those type of things. And then, now the creativity is being kind of washed away to maybe one time a week or something like that. We are chiseling away at their creative mind. And I just thought, and again, my youngest is 14. He's a freshman in high school. And he was that child that his frame of thinking was totally different than everyone else's.
Right.
Like, he was the young prodigy, I guess you say, reading at 3, like, really, that was his thing. And I that was the reason why I took him out of school.
Mine as
Because
well.
I felt that he wasn't getting what he needed. And, as an educator, as an intellectual, so to speak, and I'm sure you can understand this, you feel like, what am I doing? What am I doing as a parent? What am I doing? How do I reach my child? How do I make sure that he or she is getting what they need? And what do I do? What do I do? And I remember, and I'll just go back to us in Facebook and how I was introduced to you. I remember seeing some conversations, some threads where you would respond to something that a parent stated, or someone on the site, they would pose a question, or you would pose a question, and there would be like this long thread of conversation that would happen. But you have people from everywhere that were chiming in, offering support, giving their, little bit of information, asking for help, asking. And I think that was one of the problems that we had, and we're still having, Julie.
So
And go ahead.
let me tell you a little secret about that, because I
Go
agree.
ahead.
And I think parents and teachers both turned to Facebook and other places in the last year or so trying to find help. And we realized that, where do we go? We go to our community. So one of the things that we've put in the system is a listing of every co-op, umbrella school, Facebook group that we can find, categorized for your search. So if you say, I need help with my kid that's this way on Facebook, or I need help in New York for Facebook, like whatever it is, because that community is so important, so important. And having that support, this, you don't have to go this alone. That I think that was the key takeaway here. You are not alone. We are going to give you all the tools you need, so that you have that community. And I think the other big piece here is important. So for my family, for my children,
Right.
homeschool was the right option. School beforehand was good until it wasn't. And I'll be very honest. Both of my children are very gifted. One of them is dyslexic. And so the traditional school system for us just didn't work for our needs. And they're amazing. They're both way ahead because of what we do. But that being said, homeschooling comes in different flavors, right? So we talk about different flavors, and what works for my family may not be what works for somebody else. There are lots of different flavors, just like there's different types of schools, different types of online schools. There is a different educational path for everyone's personal and specific needs, and what is right for your family or somebody else's family, what's right for a teacher trying to find their pathway, trying to find, do they want to work in a traditional school system? Do they want to supplement with work online? Do they want to start their own tutor? Everybody gets to have a choice here. Everybody gets to find what works for them. What we wanted to do was to put it all in one place so that you could find what you needed, connect with each other, and be able to find that community and answer those questions you need, because you're right, this is not something you can go alone on. It's been an amazing journey to see everybody finding their way. My only hope is that we can touch even more people in this regard. I hear every day from people saying, I don't know where to start, or I didn't know that was possible, or what do you mean I can do that? That's even an option. The flip side of that coin are parents and teachers who say, well, you can't do that. I would never do that because, and that are misinformed about their option, or misinformed is the wrong word, are not informed
Right.
about options.
Right.
Listen, good schools are a fantastic way for kids to learn. They are. Not all schools are created equal, right? Not all schools are created equal in equal communities. And that's not fair. It's not right, but it's the way of the world, right? And I can't change that, but I can make sure that a kid who's in a school perhaps that's not as strong as another school can come to my site and see that there are free programs that he can use to access that information. Maybe they don't have a computer at home. That's where the libraries come in. Like I can't change the social situation of the country, but I can make sure that there's one more tool in the armament that we use for our kids. Kids want to learn. They want to do new things. They are natural inquirers. And yes, somewhere along the way for a lot of kids, that gets shut down. And I don't know whether it's the schools that do that, the system that does that, or just being told over and over again, wherever you learn, you have to do it this way. Well, but what if that way doesn't work for me? What if I'm a more visual learner and you're trying to make me read the textbook? What if I have dyslexia and you haven't diagnosed that? And I can learn everything from watching a National Geographic documentary on the subject, but I read the page and it doesn't work for me. Right. What if I don't learn well listening to someone talk, and I really would rather be in the back of the room or at home with a book? What if I am that perfect student for the classroom? Then maybe this is my way. The point is, it's very difficult, no matter who you are or what school you are, extraordinarily difficult, nigh impossible, to accommodate for the needs of every single student in a classroom. You've been a teacher, right? It doesn't mean we shouldn't try. We absolutely should. And there are schools that do this in really great, innovative ways. You can look at some of the innovative schools. You can look at some of the mag schools, some of the just great public schools that really try to do everything. That being said, nobody can do it all. And there is always room for this sort of supplementation. What we want to do is be able to show everybody what they can find, what they can do. One of my goals in the coming years is to list every school in the nation, to be able to show parents what their options are. Like, I want to have it all in one place. So you say, my kid loves computers and he wants to do all these things with computers. Well, did you know that you can take a class over the summer that teaches you to build a computer? Did you know that there are people online teaching stuff? Did you know that there's Facebook groups doing this? Like, whatever it is, there's somebody that will specialize in this. And so that is the idea, that you can find whatever your niche is really, really quickly. Because the last thing we want to do when a kid's interested in something is wait, right? You want to harness that passion right then. And we're busy. Oh God, am I busy? I'm a mom. I know it. And so I need to be able to find that answer super quick. You know, I otherwise, if I don't go looking right this minute, it sort of just disappears. Like, you asked me what a month ago. I don't remember any of this stuff, right?
Oh, you could go a month. I struggle with a day or two.
It's just nuts. But you know, you want to be able to show kids right then and there what it is they want to do. We added in, oh gosh, I think I have 11,000 field trips nationwide. So wherever
I'm sorry. Because when I was in the classroom, I thrived off of, I mean, we were in New York, and I'm so sorry, but you know, when you hear something that triggers an emotion, a fit, whatever it is. And when I was in New York, because we had everything, the city was at our fingertips. We didn't have the restrictions of, you know, COVID and social distancing and this, that, and the other. I took my class on a field trip every month. If I could do 2 in a month, I was doing 2 in a month, or we had a classroom visitor. I don't think that the young people students as well as teachers of today understand how vital those
Yes,
field trips are and how much of an impact. I had students, I taught in Harlem, and I had students that stayed in Harlem.
right.
They may have ventured to the Bronx, but they didn't go downtown. They didn't really explore the Museum of Natural History or the Met, or, and it was at their fingertips. I mean, just the Museum of the City of New York.
Right.
Those were like, you would think they were
Yet,
expeditions for
and
us.
yet most people never experience this thing. So
They-
this is
they-
what we did. We have, and you know what, can I drive for a few minutes? Is that okay?
Sure,
Okay,
sure.
let me, tell me, this is you. Can you see my screen?
Yes, yes, yes. I see Educate the World.
Okay, oop, let me close that off. So let me go to us. All right, I'm gonna log in real quick.
And
All
if
right.
I'm going to
Oh.
mention the website, anythingacademic.com.
Anythingacademic.com. And I'm going to go to the main kind of tool of the site here and just give you a down and dirty real fast. And we'll look at some fun things along the way. So we have both kind of what we call a global search, which is sort of a single keyword search. And then we have a profile search. And this is what's really cool is that you can make for each child and sometimes more than one thing. So if you have, 3 kids and each one's looking for something different, you can save that. And more importantly, if you need music stuff for Kara, and I also need science stuff for Kara, I can sort of set those up as separate searches and save them and see what I'm going on.
Wow.
But this is what we've really, I like to talk about what we do as being somewhere between an Amazon for education and a dating service for kids and learning. That's sort of what we do, right? Like that's sort of the idea that you ought to be able to come and find what you need pretty dang quick. And we're evolving and growing very fast. So there's always something new. But let's do something fun.
It's good to just be starting. This is amazing. You said it though. I love that marriage, Amazon and the dating site.
The words I always use, it should just be easier, right? Like it
should.
should be simpler. It should not be as hard as it is. And that was what we wanted. I'm not a complicated Jeff Bezos kind of guy, right? I just wanted it to be easier for me and for my kids. And so we've done that. We've made it easier, simpler, and amazing, because what you really do is discover so many things you don't know before. And that's
this is like an expedition. This is a journey that you go on.
Yes. So let me show you. So certainly we have tutors, you can come in and take a peek. See, I'm gonna clear my filters here for a second. And you can find tutors. That's one piece of the puzzle. You can find camps. And here's what happens. So like this is one particular location, Cosmo Camps, right?
Richmond. I used to live in Richmond.
Is this Richmond based? I don't know offhand. I have 10,000 camps. You have to forgive me. I don't remember.
That's okay. No, that's amazing.
But you get to learn everything about them, right? You can go straight to their websites. If you're a homeschool kid, you can find out about their pricing. If they have field trips, that's in here too. If they have a little video, we get to do that too. And to me, as a mom, I'm gonna turn this down. I want to know about everything. So I know whether this is what I want for my child, right? And so it's all here. It's categorized by what subjects it's teaching. We even have YouTube reviews that you can do in here. It's all at your fingertips. And if you note, it's all categorized by what you're doing. So they have science camps, right? They have Boy and Girl Scout camps. They have different this is just camps. So I'm gonna get out of camps because we're talking about that'll come up this summer.
Wow, but that's amazing. Parents are going to be looking for that information early.
Then we have educational news sites. So my children every day read the news. Like, didn't your parents read the newspaper when they were tipped? But we do too. Mine do CNN. They also follow Time and a few others. But these are all news sites designed for children. So if you're a teacher, and that's the other thing here. This is not just for parents, right? You're a teacher.
Right.
You want to know what you need and you don't know what you want to offer. Come here. Just come explore. This is free to access. Come and find what you need to use in your classroom. Help make your life easier, I'm
going to date myself because when I was in the classroom, we had Time for Kids, but it was in the magazine form.
Yes.
And Yes, that's how we would use it in class. Wow, I dated myself big time.
I had every National Geographic magazine, I think, from like,
Yes.
1986 forward. But in fact, I found them in my mother's house the other day, but they're
Yeah.
all falling apart. But these sites have not just information, they have maps, they have history, they have
Mm.
geography, they have videos. If you need to learn about Uganda in social studies, right? Why are we looking at a map in the back of the classroom and not watching the videos on, National Geographic Kids talking about Uganda and the world that they live in? These resources are at your beck and call. You just have to know how to find them, right? Okay, now off to field trips. This is the fun part, right? So I'm gonna set, where did you say you're located? What's
I'm
your
in
zip code?
Maryland. I'm in
What's your zip code?
21209.
All right, let's play. So this is Maryland, right? So these are all places in Maryland that you can go and explore. And let's see if I pull any of these up. So here's a good one, right? So here's the Maryland Zoo. They'll have information on field trips and tours. All you have to do is click on it, and it will take you straight to the learning resources, everything you'd need. The site here. You'll get information on what you got to pay and everything you need to do. I gotta tell you, for me as a parent, don't you always go to the same places over and over again?
Right.
It's a Saturday and we need to get out of the house, and where are we gonna go?
Yes.
Oh, like I wanted to be able to say, what's near me? What can we do? What's different? And so that was what this was. And then of course, listen, the B&O Railroad Museum, the Mahogany Exchange Gallery, like all these places.
You're bringing back memories.
Historic ships of Baltimore. And this lets you just expand your horizon. And so many of these places have either free or very inexpensive programs, both for school groups and for homeschool groups. I'll tell you, like one of the local, it's called the Mahaffey Theater. It's like the big theater in our city in St. Petersburg. They offer monthly, if not more often, amazing shows. The school systems come through maybe once or twice a year. It's $5 a kid. You can take your child anytime you want and see amazing shows. And almost every theater in the nation has these sorts of programs, but it's about knowing it, finding it, getting the information. And that is
about that one. I'm looking because again, I apologize for interrupting, but some of these places, when I was homeschooling, we went, we were here. This was a day-long trip, and the exchange that took place. And I didn't know about I'm looking at the list and I'm saying, well, I didn't know about that one. Washington, Rochambeau Revolutionary Route. There's one in Kent County that kind of traces Harriet Tubman's route that she took with the Underground Railroad. There's so much more. And again, my children, I have a freshman and I have a senior. So there's so much more that I still would love to learn about. Even though it's almost over, Julie. For me, it's almost over.
It's never over. Hold on. It's never over. And that's the other thing I should throw in there. We're not just for kids. We're going to be incorporating college and lifelong learners. So one of the other things we've already incorporated is this is for lifelong learners. So YouTube learning, enrichment boxes, best apps, and then also what's considered, let me get down here. So I gotta remember where, so e-learning, right? Let me clear this out. Hold on a second. So these are all programs that offer lifelong learning. You want to learn to code? You want to take teaching classes? I also have a whole section on CEUs for teachers. So teachers who need to come and get CEUs, that's here. These are all locations that offer CEUs for teachers. So it's because one of the big challenges for teachers, especially those that sort of disconnect from the school system, is getting those CEUs. So not only did we do that, we have a bunch of articles helping teachers figure out how to start a business, how to start a tutoring business, how to form an LLC, how to sort of get their act going, all those things they don't know. But yes, no, we've got, I have every state and national association I can find
Wow.
that you can sort them again. You'll sort, I'll do my area now. This is Florida. So they're sorted by state, right? And local location. The co-ops, the Facebook groups, they're all in here. All the online schools in the nation, like I said, this is near me.
Amazing.
So anything you need, right? And we're adding, oh, okay, one last little fun one I have to show you because not everyone's familiar with this. I know you're a homeschooler, so you'll get it, but game schooling. So
I
we
love
have
it.
all the game schooling stuff here,
Yes.
categorized by subject.
Oh,
So if you say that you want, oh, let's just do history, right? Just to kind of keep it simple.
right.
And so now
Go. Mm-hmm.
these are all places tracking the national parks, Oregon Trail game cards, Stone Age. These are all games you can use, categorized history, Seven Wonders, Agamemnon. These are all games that your kids will play and learn history while they're playing, and you incorporate family time. So game schooling, and this can be in the classroom, right? But instead of you having to say, well, what should I get? What should I do? It's just click and it's ready for you. But we've had a lot of fun. I'm getting ready in the not so distant future to launch a whole nother section that I'm putting in here that's going to be both parent help and kid help and advice about different ways to learn, different learning challenges. It might be like one of the categories is parent help and advice for the gifted kid, parent help and advice for the acting child, parent help and advice for the sports child, kid help and advice for bullying, kid help advice for dyslexia, whatever it is. It's academic. It's part of what we as parents want, right? So it's all going to be here for you. And there's about 600 of those coming in the next, hopefully 6 weeks. I've got to load it in the system, but it's all coming as well. You want to know what to buy for a Christmas present from grandma? Just tell them to go in there and pick a game and you're good to go. But no, this has been a passion project. We didn't wake up one day and say, let's start a business and, what can we do to make some money? We fell down a rabbit hole, a very passionate rabbit hole. And because I couldn't find what I wanted for my children, we built it.
You created it. That's
we
right.
We did. And we were gifted and blessed in that we had some friends who had the right skills to bring to the table. And so we have built it and it's out there. I hope that your followers will take a listen and certainly share us out there to their friends who may need what we need. It's free to use. We're trying to just educate people that there is a place to go, a single home for everything we as parents need and teachers need academically. And we will be adding more and more as we go.
I love it. And I mean, I know it's a lot to take in. For me, I won't even speak for anyone else. It's a lot. And I know that you all put in a lot of work. It's evident. Number one, because you're catering to not just one particular learning style or learning environment. It is a beautiful potpourri of all the learning styles, all the learning environments, all the facets of learning, whether it be for the parent, for the child, for the teacher, for the administrator, because, that needs to happen too. It is amazing to see all of this and to be able, again, to just like one-stop shop, like you said, put in your geographic region, boom, you can get all this information. To be able to help parents in various ways, to help your students in various ways, and just to make it fun and exciting. I think that might have been something that we lost in that time.
I think a lot of people have gotten frustrated with education in the last 2 years, and it shouldn't be that way. So let's put the adventure back. Let's put the discovery back. Education can be in the classroom and done beautifully. Education can be sitting outside at night looking through a telescope with dad, looking up at the stars, right? Or using the star map app, which is actually even easier, but we won't go into that. Education can be in the kitchen, learning to cook. I mean, education is not just reading, writing, and arithmetic. Okay.
Right.
Yes, those are really
Right.
important. Okay.
Right.
You know, math happens every day,
Right.
come hell or high water, right?
Right.
But
I'm
there's
still trying to figure out how calculus plays in that, Julie, but go ahead. I'm sorry.
as a physician, I'll tell you it's required to get into medical school. So that's
Right.
my sense. But
Right.
but that raises a very good point. So let me back us up for a second. I'm a doctor. Obviously, academics for me was always really important, right?
Yes.
I'm the mom of a dyslexic child, right? Who
Right.
the school system that we were in, I'm not going to say in general, the one we were in, tried, and their way of trying was to say, let's just make it easier for her.
Right.
That didn't teach her, right? And I didn't want my child to be limited. I wanted to find the right tools that worked so she could succeed, so that calculus could be her thing. And we've done that. But not every child should go to college. Not every child can go to college. And perhaps we are doing them a disservice, pushing them forward this way, when you'd be better off learning business math, going off and finding a trade that's going to make you a fantastic career. I don't know about you, but my roofer makes more money than I do. Okay.
Okay. Yes.
Okay. So,
yes.
But we need to stop thinking of education as a single pathway. And I think that's what we're helping to embrace here, that you can find in here for your child what works for you. Maybe your child's going to Stanford someday. Have at it, right? You know, that may be your path. Maybe a child wants to have a police or firefighter trade, and you want to know how to get into those programs early. Maybe dual enrollment's a thing. Maybe they want to go to cooking school and be the next master chef, right? There are programs for all of that available to you, but you probably don't know how to find them.
That's it.
So that's where we step in. Not every child needs to be on the same path, and pushing them down a path that doesn't work does them a disservice, where what they really want to know is have those basics and now go find the trade and be successful and passionate about what they want to do. We have a little bit of a dirty word in our country about trade schools and vocational schools. And I want that to be such a shame. Okay.
Say it, Julie. Say it. Say it.
Their vocation, whether it's in a vocational school, a vocational pathway, whatever it is. Okay. Look, Steve Jobs quit school and was making computers in his backyard, right? In his garage. Now we're not all Steve Jobs, but there's something to be said for the passion of learning. If your child wants to learn to do something, if you want to learn to do something, go do it. Find a way. And we're here to help you do that. Whatever that path may be, whatever you do. And I tell homeschool moms this all the time. The hardest transition when you leave, I'm gonna call it traditional education, though there are plenty of parents and teachers that know this, right? In the traditional system. The hardest thing to learn to do is to stop saying no. It's so easy to say no. Nope, not right now. Nope, don't have time. No, you can't do that. You can't learn that. No. The hardest thing to do is to start saying yes. And for kids, the hardest thing for them to do is to understand they can say yes to. And to stand up and say, I want to do this, as opposed to what's next. Okay. Very different approaches to learning. And the children that learn to love to learn, the children that come to you and say, I want to know about this. And you say yes, you open the floodgates. My daughter decided, she read the Percy Jackson books and thought that mythology was the coolest thing in the entire world. And so she spends all of her free time now watching YouTube videos about mythology from all over the world. Okay. We were watching the Monkey King television show from Australia, and she's telling me that she's reading the ancient Chinese books and that it's very different from this. And I'm going, you gotta be kidding me. So you've got to learn how to turn the love of learning on. And that starts in the home when you know where to find it. And that's what I've done. That is, I hope, if there's nothing else you take away from this, we're giving you a new tool to put in your tool belt.
That's right.
To find a quick yes, a quick answer.
Think about, and I apologize, but think about those families that don't really understand that statement that you just made, as far as yes, and allowing them to go and dig deeper into something that they're interested in, if they don't understand the value of it, then it won't continue. You know, that no is going to shut the child down, shut
So,
them down.
so one little piece to add to that is, and I'll start this with something funny, right?
Mhm.
And I know that we've all been there, and I've listened to my friends' children doing this. We all know that children are better at technology than we are. There's just no question that we know that children are better at tech than we are. And in the last year or two of the remote schooling, we saw this because kids found ways to put video of themselves being attentive while they were busy reading books, texting their friends, and doing other things. Like,
Right,
or
right.
how many teachers in the middle of the classroom had to stop class while one of the kids who's remoting in explains to them how to fix whatever's on the screen. Like, this is just a fact. Kids know technology better. There is nothing that stops a child with an email from signing into our system all by themselves and finding the resources they need,
Love it.
within a certain age and appropriateness. But kids need to be able to find what they need. Everything's age appropriate. It's
Right.
certainly within the realm of what they can do, but we need to let children find, and children is, I'm older, children is a loose term here,
Right,
this
right,
includes the
right.
college kids in my book, right?
That's
So we'll just say
okay.
young people.
Young people.
Discover what they want on their own, and giving them that power to say, like you said, I want to do this. Let me
Right.
explore this. Can I go smash an egg in the backyard to see what's inside
Right.
it? Okay, let's find out what's in the egg, right? It's hard to say yes, and I think that that's where the magic happens. Saying yes inspires kids, and it inspires families, because it makes
Yes.
you spend time together as a family, playing games to learn in the
Mhm.
evening instead of doing homework. And instead
Mhm.
you're, I'll use Tracking the World as an example, which is this fantastic board game where you have to go from city to city across the nation, and you learn about all the national parks along the
What's it
way.
called again? I'm sorry. What's it?
Tracking
Tracking
the
the
World.
World. Mhm.
It's a great game from Underdog Games, and it lets you explore all these national parks. But in order to win the game, you have to know where things in the country are. So
Ah,
you have to know where the major cities are. So instead of asking kids to sort of memorize things, nothing teaches a kid to learn like winning, right? We've all been,
right.
if you can win the game,
Right.
you'll do anything to beat your sister, right? And maybe to
Right.
like show dad up or whatever. But this is where looking at education is different.
Mhm.
Learning, playing games, learning, watching movies, learning to watch a documentary or a movie about something, and anything can be,
Mhm.
we watched The Martian with my kids one time. I think we stopped every 60 seconds to talk about the science and the math behind what they were
Mhm.
doing and had to
Mhm.
hit pause. It's
Mhm.
so bad now that my daughter in the middle of conversations with me will say, hit pause, mommy, because that's what we do in our household.
Mhm.
But to be able to take anything you're doing and turn it into an educational moment. And
Yes.
that's a transition. That's not, it's really easy to like be somewhere with your kids where they're doing something and be on your phone. I am as guilty of it as the
Right.
next
Right.
person, right?
Right.
But when you stop, when you engage, and when you start asking them questions and letting them teach you, the
Mhm.
whole world changes. And it
Yep.
doesn't matter where they learn. They can be in school. We tend to say, so how was your day today? It
Mhm.
was fine. And then like,
Right.
off
That's
you
it.
go,
Yeah.
as opposed to what experiment did you do in science today? Tell me
Right.
what was cool. Like, how did it work? What was the science?
Right.
Like, get them engaged and get them doing. So
Mm.
I'm gonna close with just like the last thing I can remember here. I saw Neil deGrasse Tyson speak. I guess it's been about 2.5 years ago. He came to town and he was speaking. And here's one of the best speakers on science of the age. And he was actually talking about science and astronomy and movies, and like the good, bad, and ugly of that, right? The silly things, the real
Right.
things, and sort of tore it apart. It was a lot of fun to listen speak. And there was a 10-year-old girl in the audience,
Mm.
probably about the third row, but within his eye line. And he spent half the show engaged with this 10-year-old, because the best person in the room was not the adults who had come to hear him talk, but the 10-year-old girl who had stayed up late to come
Mhm.
listen to some boring old fodgy dude talk about science. And so that is where we want our kids to be. We want them, and I don't care if it's it's Neil deGrasse Tyson, or if they want to learn about farming. And so they go to the organic farm on the weekends to volunteer and they learn to get their hands in the dirt. Whatever it is, let's inspire the kids and let's give value to that learning. Don't say, oh, that's not the same as being in the classroom. It is the same. It's not better or worse, but it's the same. And we need to value that just as much as we value algebra or the Constitution. All of those things have merit, and you want a child that's well-rounded. You want a child who understands their rights in this country and why they should care. They whatever their political belief is, I don't care. But be able to understand that they have the right to that belief, and they have the right to get information and how to get good information. These are all skills. Get them reading the news, get them reading 10 news sources, right? And let them decide what's important. Teach critical thinking. Don't teach facts. Teach them how to find the facts.
Find the facts.
Yes. So that's sort of where we've come from. And I've gone on at length, and I apologize. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity. But as you can tell, I get a little passionate about it sometimes.
Listen, this is what this conversation is all about. I'm going to ask one thing. If you could bring it back to full screen, because I really want to get a full vision of your face.
Yes. Hold on. Let me stop.
You're in box.
Yes.
First, let me say this. I'm truly thankful, and I'm speaking for everybody: parent, educator, administrator, auntie, grandma. I'm speaking for everyone. Thank you for, number one, caring enough to put all of this information into one place for everybody, right? That's quite a feat. It's quite a feat. Number two, the simple fact that you have been able to encapsulate the various ways and means in which young people, right? I was going to say children, young people learn, engage, because that's really where it is, engage in their learning process and their learning experience. What you have done it's amazing. And I honestly wish, this is one of my regret moments, I wish that I would have had your resource to help me when I was homeschooling. Because
I had it.
Yeah. I didn't have the community, right? I didn't have as many resources. I had plenty of resources, but I didn't have as many as I should have had. And this would have been so helpful to me. Again, I could write curriculum. I can do all that, but when you are creating a curriculum for your child to meet their needs,
right? You
can't just go with the cookie cutter. You have to make that stew. And I feel like I needed more ingredients to make the stew much better.
Well, and you're lucky in that you can do that. And there are plenty of people out there homeschooling who can't.
Right.
And so they need to be able to find the yous out there who have that available to them. And so, but yes, this has been a passion project, definitely. And it continues to be.
I was getting ready to say, and you are evolving. I just wish that everyone takes advantage of your site. Let me ask you this, Julie, what fees are involved for anyone who needs to know?
So it is free to access. It's called www.anythingacademic.com. It is free to access. There is an upgraded version, but you can go in right now for free and explore it all. We have a huge library that's also free. It's free for teachers to list their services on the site. We would rather get, and I should add too, if you have built something, if you have a thing, whatever your thing is, if you have a site, if you have a unit study, if you have a curriculum, if you have a field trip, if you have anything, there's a place to add a resource. You send it to us and we'll put it on there for free. One thing I didn't mention, you're part of the homeschool market. So it's not just about finding a tutor or a teacher or someone to cover a little bit of a class if you're homeschool, because as homeschoolers, they tend to do it themselves, but a few classes here and there.
Right.
What if you need a homeschool evaluator or a
Wow.
consultant? What if you need a sports consultant? What if you
Mhm.
need an occupational therapist or a speech therapist? We've actually built into the system, and this piece is growing, the ability to list all of those services. If what you do is is part of this kind of grand academic world, one of the big things we saw was that when the kids were out of school, they weren't getting the therapy they needed, because not just did they not have access in the schools, they didn't know where to find it outside of the school system. So speech therapists, therapists that work with social emotional learning. There are people out there who are sports consultants. You think your kid's the next Babe Ruth? There are people there that'll help you do that, right? And maybe your kid is, and you really need to know how to navigate that for them. All of those skills are there. You need help with um, getting your homeschool on the right path. There are people that will help you with that. There are people that will do assessments for your child so that you have someone to help you see where they are and where their needs are. All those services can be found on the system, and you can list your services for that on the system as well.
Mhm.
And again, it's free. It's free to do that.
Wow. Well, I'll say, I know we covered a lot. I
We
know
did.
you gave, this is like a whole course of information that you have shared, and resources, and just, support for everyone. I want to thank you again for just giving me the time, because I know your time is tight.
Anytime. Thank you. Anytime. Happy to do it. We'll do it again if you want to. It has
Yeah,
been fabulous. It's a lot of fun to share what we do, and to sort of get it out there, and tell people what we are capable of doing if we all get together to change the education.
that's
If
right.
if we're going to take education to the next level in this country,
Mhm.
we need to inspire everybody, the teachers, the principals, the students, the parents, the grandparents. Everybody has to start thinking of education, and I almost hate that word. Think of learning
Right.
as fun again.
It's an experience.
Yes,
It's an experience.
yes. Let's make it an adventure. Let's
That's
let's
right.
let's make all of it an adventure. So thank you again for
You
having
are
me. You're
welcome.
so
You
wonderful.
are
I
welcome. Thank
wish you
you.
the best in everything you do, and I
Thank
can't wait
you.
to hear from you again soon.
I appreciate it. Dr. Juli Shamas, can people donate when they go to your site? If you
There's
have
not
some.
a donation. There is an upgraded membership. If they want to
Okay,
support us, they can
okay,
upgrade to the premium membership, which is, I think, currently at $9 a month. And we would love your support, because the more support we get, the
yes,
more I can put in here. This is done by people who all have full-time jobs. And
right.
we have sort of built this for our friends, family, and loved ones in our free time, which, is what it is.
That's
But
right.
if they want to support us, we would, uh, in the best support you can give us is to pass the word. Let people know that there's an option out there to find what you need.
Dr. Juli Shamas, anythingacademic.com. Thank you. We can find you on Facebook, your website. And if there's anyone that needs to get in contact with you, that information, like if someone wanted to email you personally, could they email you through the website, through the
They
Facebook
can.
page?
They can reach
Okay.
us directly. There's a contact on the website. They can also reach us at, I think the easiest email to use would be, I think it's, the website's the easiest way. It'll get to me there, and they can go there and send us information. Like I said, there's an add a resource button and a partner with us button for anyone that wants to partner. And teachers can just start their listings automatically all by themselves. And parents can just explore. And by all means, share us on Facebook, share us on Instagram.
There you go. There you go. I appreciate you. Continue blessings to you and your team, because I know it's a team. Continue blessings to you. And I have some follow-up information for you once we finish recording. Okay.
Wonderful. To everyone, have a wonderful evening, and thank you again.
Thanks.